Gentlemen, how you going? Let me know if you can hear me. As you type your questions, remember bracket them with emojis or a whole bunch of symbols. I wanted to first talk about something I hear a few times in the comments section, and that is, given the situation of the world, and there's always something happening, but particularly now, you get people that tend to say, how can you be talking about this philosophical stuff and, this is just kind of intellectual masturbation with everything happening in the world, as though it's shameful, as though I'm playing while the world is burning. I've always found it pretty peculiar. Anyway, my thoughts are, if you're not thinking for yourself, then how are you going to help the world? And it's always a little baffling to me where people really don't have an opinion or much of an opinion on their own life, and you can tell just by looking at their how they live day to day. They want, if you look at the world as a big thing and them as a small thing, they're saying, worry about the world. Why aren't you worrying about the world? You're talking about your puny self and your little ideas with your little friends. But to me, it's ridiculous. How can you, as an equivalent argument, say you're not talking about NASA and the exploration of space, though you in your private life, you can't even work out your own remote control for your TV? It makes no sense that somehow simple-minded people that can't get a hold of their own life can somehow instruct the rest of the world on really big matters and how to conduct society. Anyway, I'm glad that some of you guys liked the Spetsnaz Q&A that he and I had recently. It was a lot of fun. I didn't get to publish it as soon as I would have liked, simply because the last week and a half I was really, really busy, and I already had a couple of videos I wanted to schedule out, but it was definitely something that was going to be released. It's just, life gets in the way. So throw me your questions, guys. Here's one from Benjamin. When you took a year off work to focus on yourself, did you also take a year off women? If not, do you regret it? How did it affect you one way or the other? It's a funny thing. When I took the year off, I knew I wanted to clean my life up. Some people go the minimalist route or whatever, but I just knew I had a lot of clutter, and I wanted to strip away everything, and with it all clean, I was going to start putting back only what worked and only what felt right. Because when your life's cluttered, a lot of times you just want to adjust things, but the best thing to do sometimes is to get rid of the stuff you really know shouldn't be there. What happened with me was I knew that the job I was working, I could afford to take time off and figure out what I wanted to do. And that's exactly what I did. And I was wondering how that one big decision, because it is a big decision, it was a big life change. I was no longer going to work and occupying a large portion of my week, 2/3 of my week at work, and just living on the weekend. I was essentially saying I'm going to live all week and decide how I want to live going forward and what I'll do. It was very insecure from a person that's used to structuring their life and being very, very structured. the funny thing is, a few months after that, my then girlfriend, who was with me at that time for a couple of years, she all of a sudden didn't feel it anymore. Surprise, surprise. After I left my job for myself and wanted to figure out what I was going to do, she just all of a sudden didn't feel the same way. And I actually asked her, I said, have I changed? And she said, no, I just don't feel the same anymore. So, curious. And I did take a year off women while I took that year off, simply because, to be honest, like, she broke my heart too. But I was at a vulnerable moment where I really didn't like my life and I wanted to adjust things. So that was painful in a lot of ways because I didn't know what I was going to do in my life. It's a lot scarier when you're an older guy. This was me in my early 40s, sorry. So it's kind of uncertain and a little bit scary when you're younger, but you kind of you're not that worried because you've got a lot of life ahead of you. This seems like a ridiculous thing to do when you're older. You should be more sensible. This is something young people do. But I took a year off women simply because, in one way or another, my girlfriend at the time, she left. And because it was painful, it was easy for me to say, okay, enough of that. I don't even want to think about that. I don't want to even look at women. I want to sort my own life out. So it wasn't hard to avoid women. Hey, Andy from Glasgow. Yeah, let me know if you can't hear anything. I think for the first time I've started a stream without any hiccups. My microphone works. I tried to sort of get the intro rolling, something to mimic my normal videos, even though this is a one-take thing, which is another reason I enjoy doing them. Aside from the nervousness of setting it up, I'm a perfectionist, so I prefer recording videos and then in post-production making sure they work. This is live, so I set it up as best I can. And when this ends, YouTube does its thing and it goes live tomorrow. So I don't have much control, but it also frees me up to hang out with you guys in real time, answer your questions, have a bit of a chat, and I get to connect with my subs at least once a week, maybe twice if I've got time. So let's keep it going. I added an EQ on my mic this time. Let me know what you think of the sound, whether it's too bassy, too high end in the treble, or if it's okay for you. A few people actually say that to turn up my volume, I have got the volume higher than it should be. It's tickling the red section in OBS, but I've got a limiter keeping it under -2 dB. So it's really kind of maxing it out. I'm not a big fan of this sound, but it's kind of the clearest and loudest I can make it. I prefer it smoother and lower, but I've added a bit of compression. So hopefully it comes through okay. I did a bit of testing. It should be all right. It seems like it is. None of you guys are complaining. Okay. Any thoughts on how to break down skills that are ongoing and can always be improved? I sometimes get overwhelmed by how much there is to know about any one subject. Yeah, I find myself when I'm overwhelmed is simplify, simplify, simplify. Because I'm not the kind of person that can juggle many complex things at once, let alone it's hard enough to do one at one time. So I'm the kind of person that I focus on one thing and give it all of my attention. I can't split my focus. So when you're overwhelmed, I always try and go back to first principles and boil things down to their essence and build up from there, not try and take everything on. As I said, when I left my job in the past, I boiled it down to its simplest form and then built up from there, added the things. So same with working something out is boil it down to its bare minimum and then start stacking. But stack the necessities or things that make sense. Don't stack cosmetic things or what about this? How about this? And if you know what I mean. So keep it simple. Yeah, in terms of subjects as well, stick to one subject. Don't do too much. Will the Q&A be up later? This one, yeah, I think YouTube takes roughly a day to process it and probably run its magnifying glass over everything to make sure there's nothing offensive or whatever. So, yeah, it'll be up. Kung Fu Joe, hey man. You were quoted in the last chat, I think, with Spetsnaz. Do I know Desmond Morris, or is it Desmond Morris? No, don't think so. Sounds familiar, though. Come on, guys. I don't mind fun questions, but not really stupid questions. Not saying you, Kung Fu Joe. I'm just reading some of the other ones. Intellectually and sexually, I am totally over relationships with females, but I still struggle with the whole dying alone thing. Some apprehension that I just can't unravel. Well, without any kind of context, I don't know how long you've been alone. I tend to find the longer you get used to a certain state, it gets easier. But then if you're in a state for too long, sometimes you can overstay your welcome, even with yourself in a certain part of your life, that you need to move to something else. So it depends on where you are. If you've recently decided you're over women, yeah, I'm trying to think of myself. If, like for instance, now I really don't have, I barely have much interest in women. But again, I'm very conscious of the fact that I'm getting older, and so it's easier for me not to. My biology's helping me. Chemically, I'm not that interested, so it's easier. So to the degree that I want to alleviate it, or in your case, you're sort of saying you're worried about being alone, or the aloneness of it, do things that you think will help you alleviate it. If it is being in the company of other women or friends, do that, but keep away from the things you just can't be bothered with, like full-on committed relationships or anything dangerous with women. I hope that helped. That was a bit vague, but that's all I can suggest. My income greatly exceeds my lifestyle. I enjoy the safety net, but I feel a bit uneasy over being slotted into the worker drone role. Any tips on enjoying success without feeling used or exploited? Well, it was kind of like I mentioned before, when I left my job, this was about 7 years ago. I've mentioned it before. I felt like my world was in color. I felt like my world was in black and white, but I wanted it to be in color again. I had a great paying job. Structurally on paper, I couldn't fault it, but I didn't feel like I fit there anymore. It was an old life that I'd wanted to reach, and I'd been living it for a few years, and it had gotten stale. And that's what I was suggesting about overstaying your welcome. I needed to move on to something else. I needed to change. I was living the life of a 20 and 30-something-year-old guy that wanted to be independent and have his fun and do all these things. But I was going through the routines, and something in me kept kind of knocking louder and louder. And I kind of, the feeling, I knew what the feeling was and which direction I should lean. And I trusted that. I was getting paid decent money too, but I found I was I had a salary beyond my lifestyle, and I was throwing it away. I was buying cameras I didn't need. I was buying colognes, perfumes. I was going on trips and things that I didn't really care about just to sort of do something. I knew I was throwing away the money that my time was creating, but I started to value time more. I think that's what it was. When I really started to value my time, that's when it started to really click for me, and I had the courage. I think it'd be harder the younger you are, because time isn't knocking as loudly, because you think you've got a lot more time, and you can push it to the back burner for longer. But when you get older, it starts to come to the forefront. No, I haven't signed up to MGTOW TV yet. Given you know people in general are not always or rarely on the same page as you, does it discourage you from getting to know them? How do you approach people in general in that context? I find general and mundane life really interesting, which you can probably glean from the kind of videos I make and the conversations I tend to sort of try and chew on in relation to life and what I think and so forth. So my stuff's pretty pedestrian, but I like to think about it philosophically because I find it interesting. The stuff I'm talking about isn't really what some other great content creators discuss, whether it's more STEM-based and a lot more intellectually deeper. Mine is kind of, you can say it's more pedestrian, but deeper pedestrian maybe, subjectively. But those kind of everyday topics about you, I find the most interesting because they're the stuff you experience every day. They're the stuff I've got most control over. They're not just things I can ruminate from a distance and think about, I wonder when we're going to colonize another planet or the environment or politics. I find the close, personal, immediate things the most interesting. So when I'm talking to other people, I don't find them boring. It's only when you kind of see that they're not your kind of person, that they're an SJW or, a leftist or a feminist or something like that, then you can kind of laugh. But sometimes it's fun talking to them, but I never feel angry or frustrated. I find engaging interesting. And even if I have a conversation with frustrating people, what I like about it through conversing and asking them a few questions, and whether or not you determine that, okay, you're just one of those, I can't have a conversation with you. What it does, it constantly helps you reflect on your assumptions. I don't want to be a person that's like, I believe in this religiously and I'm going to debate someone so I can win. I'm always fine-tuning and sharpening myself because I find that interesting in real time. So when I'm relating to people, I'm always checking my assumptions through the conversation. And so when I discover people and talk to really narrow-minded, dogmatic, say a feminist or something, I'll try a little bit. And if anything, it just helps me exercise the muscles of the library I have of information that inform my ethics. And then you kind of walk away feeling like, that was a great mental workout of visiting my assumptions and my ethics, and that was great. You exercise those things. They don't gather cobwebs, and that's why I think some of you guys have mentioned how it might be easy for you, human, because you can talk this way. You've got a knack for being confident and finding these words. It's only because I find it interesting enough to engage with people like this. So I don't wholly ignore everyone. I'm interested in talking to people. But if I quickly realize they're not my kind of person or not interested in a conversation, they want to debate, or they're dogmatic, or they belong to groups and politics and things like that I don't really belong to. Basically, if they're not more individually leaning, I find it's healthy for me to be open that way. Okay. All right, here we go. We're both big fans of Stardust Thinking Ape. Do you agree with him that red pill MGTOW philosophy will never work for the masses, that we will always be a relatively small minority? Yes. I've said it in a roundabout way a few times in my own videos, that it's not for everyone. If you're not philosophically interested, if you don't naturally always gravitate towards it, if you weren't an obstreperous child or a curious kid that was rebellious and said, why should I? You know, you had an individuality that wasn't sort of always compliant. You know, you didn't put your shoulders up and just agree to get along all the time. If you're not naturally that kind of person, and if you're not leaning into that side of why and skepticism, and I want to know the truth of things, hang on, that doesn't make sense. What they're telling me doesn't make sense with what I see. And no, I won't shut up. If it doesn't come naturally, then it won't be mainstream, because there's not many people who are intellectually curious. And these days, less so. Back even in the 70s when I was born, intellectuals were actually rock stars, even to people under 10. Like under 10, I knew the names of Einstein, Dostoevsky, Tolstoy. The intellectuals were known even before I read a book. They were smart people, and intelligence was something to aspire to. Not so today. That's the real big, it's not even a speed hump, it's a brick wall. And I feel for the younger guys today, because the trajectory of what we aspire to is on our level or below us. It's not up. In my day, it used to sort of be better, read better, be smarter, aim for something higher. It was hard enough to reach for the ceiling, but I wanted to reach for the stars in my own way. Now it's like a reach for the floor. Thanks, Chris. You're the wing beneath my wings too, mate. Pretty much every job I've tried as an adult has been a disaster. I'm the lowest person at work, and everyone is my manager. I've now quit working and am in my mid-40s. Is this healthy? I did it too, man. If you're pushed to do it, there's something honest there. And when I kind of felt when I was in a job I didn't like, when the imbalance was, I really didn't like my life compared to the benefits of money and the girlfriend and, you know, all the superficial benefits. Like I was miserable. I didn't care what I had. So now that you've fixed that situation, if it gets bad enough where you can't stand your complete freedom and you don't know what to do next, maybe then it's time to change things and get a part-time job or try out another job or, you know, move or whatever it might be. Only you know, trust your instinct as to what you might want to do next. Or if you don't want to do anything at the moment, you're not quite sure and you don't want to pick a direction that you can't come back from, like moving to a different suburb, or you really just don't want to take another job because then you're just going to be stuck in another same thing that you were before. Don't do it. Sit still. That's always a good lesson for me. That was something I learned, to sit still. And then just when you're ready, do it. It sounds kind of glib and cliche, but it's what I did. So if in your 40s, like I did, something pushed you to do that, something that extreme and compromise your security because it was the right thing to do, don't ignore that. Do you have any experience with bipolar or mood disorders in relation to women? Probably, unbeknownst to me, considering some of the women I've met and been in relationships with, but not clinically. I don't think so. No, it wasn't that obvious. And I'm a pretty switched on guy. If it was that bad, I wouldn't have gone near them. Why do you think women love to travel so much? One explanation might be that slowing down their lives would force them to work harder at introspection, which they are not really good at. Yes, that too. it forces them to take responsibility. I've mentioned before that I think there's something connected to their cyclic nature. They're no good at sitting still, and they're fighting between the two things. They want security. Their biology wants the security of nesting and potentially children, but their biology is always looking for the next suitor to reproduce, to find the best deal, to be hypergamous. So holidays, I actually want to make a video in the future about most women, from what I've observed, and not just what they tell you, but the reality is really the empiricism of what you see in real life, how they act, not just what they say. Women, they talk about security, but the way they act, they don't want security. This is the mental thing that men have to suffer in trying to believe women, because women treat relationships like holidays. I'll say that again. They treat relationships like holidays. And in my experience, when you meet a woman who gets bored easily and loves to travel as her first and foremost passion in life, that will not be a committed relationship. That person doesn't know how to sit still and to commit for the long term. If you're not following her in her musical chairs, if you're not constantly moving and buying property and moving from one place and then selling that and upgrading and living in Iceland and living in England, and if you're not doing that, she'll get bored. So I would be very cautious of women who get bored easily. They don't like sitting at home. They contradict you. They say, like, I like going out and I like staying home. But especially women who their number one passion is to travel and go out all the time. Yeah, I think there's a lot of childish avoidance and never wanting to commit and settle down. See, they project and put it onto men. You know, men don't want to commit, men don't want to commit. But if you're a woman that's traveling all the time, nothing can commit to you. No one sensible will commit to something that's always moving away. You know, I'll only set up roots here. And if tomorrow you're no longer here, what am I setting up roots for? I'm alone again. I may as well be alone on my own. Thanks, John. Mike replied to David, I quit my engineering, caterers, electrical and mining to do blue collar work. The freedom is awesome. Yeah. Sometimes men mistrust their instinct. I think it's something vital that's been lost because there's been so many, single mothers, fatherlessness, lack of mentorship, getting rid of history, and basically men kind of just stumbling forward in life without any male script other than just trust what women tell you, which is not a good way as a man to go forward. Trust your instinct. If you don't like your life and you kind of have a feeling of which direction would be better to lean in that direction, or at the very least, gentlemen, stand still. Don't move in a direction that will impress her or what your parents want you to do or what society wants you to do. I would suggest, if you're not quite sure, sit still, figuratively, mentally, even practically speaking. Figure out what you want to do. And then if you kind of really know what you should be doing, maybe write it down. Pros and cons on a piece of paper in 2 columns. All the benefits of leaving, what I want to do. Here are the negatives. And I'm talking about the real negatives, not the ones that are conveniently allowing you to be kind of lazily safe and staying in a job you don't like because you're earning good money. I mean, really, be honest with yourself. I did that when I showed my face on videos. I kind of said, I really want to do it. And I started to sort of formulate why I wanted to do it. And the negatives weren't that I was going to lose my job. It was that I was worried what the women in my life would say. Because what I'm talking here is the way I speak and the way I act in real life. So And I was with a long-term relationship, a partner at the time. So I thought, if she gets offended, then she really doesn't know me. So I don't care. If she doesn't, I talk this way with her. And if she sees me online and somehow doesn't like that, and she says, I'm going to leave you, human, that's great, because the reason I do this, the reason I left my job in the past, the reason I wanted to live more honestly, the reason I'm showing my face, the reason I'm expressing myself more honestly is this is how my life is getting better and better. You know, I said in the last video, don't lie to yourself, gentlemen. However much you can extend being truthful, your life will be better. The more you lie, the worse your life will become. Thanks, Tawdry Beast. I appreciate it, man. All of us old dogs can learn new tricks, me included. I'm always learning. It's a funny thing is, you know less the older you get, but you're more lubricated, if you know what I mean. You're younger and you're stiffer, but you think you know everything. You get older, you know less, but you're more kind of nimble and open, if that makes sense. Have you been to the Barrier Reef and used your photography skills over there? Also, any suggestions on developing one creativity? No, I haven't. With the former question, developing creativity. Creativity is one of those things that you have a compulsion to do, and no one can kind of stop you. It's almost an addiction. I can't really make you be creative. If there's any creative thing you're interested in, my advice would be give it a shot, and you might actually find you like it. It might unlock some doors. Thanks, Raphael. Can you distance yourself emotionally when people start to express very radical opinions that are contrary to what you think? Can you maintain friendships with people like that? Again, trust. I know it's a taboo with guys, your feelings. Trust your feelings. When you're around a person and you feel awful, or when you'd rather be on your own away from them, don't ignore that as a guy. One of the biggest faults I find now is, like, men are alone. They're looking for information for other people and they're not trusting how they feel. It's like, no, I won't listen to that. I just feel awful. I won't try and look at it and articulate it and really introspect and sort of see what it's about. I'm not going to talk to myself and figure out what's going on. It's just a feeling, and that's what women do. Let me read something, ask someone, see a psychiatrist or whatever. If people have contrary opinions to your ethics and morals, and you're very resistant to it, that should tell you that you kind of know in yourself what's right, or what the kind of person you'd rather be talking to. Because you're resistant to this other person, find other people. If they're family members or people you must be around, or you're sharing with people in a living situation, distance yourself as much as you can. Don't give more of yourself than you're prepared to sort of feel bad about, if that makes sense. So basically distance yourself as much as practically possible. Don't try and change their minds. Don't convert people to the red pill or anything like that. But look at yourself and what's best for you. Don't try and change the world. Don't try and convert people. Ask yourself what's good for me, and then just lean in that direction. Hope that helped. Okay, let's, a few more questions. How did you begin to develop deeper thinking on topics? Are there any methods you use to think in different ways, such as hypotheticals, thought experiments, reversing situations, etc.? maybe with me creatively, I've always been a creative person. I always used to draw from a very young age. I think I really found illustration and drawing in grade 2. And it was kind of like a door opened and it's never shut. But that helped me be interested later in life in terms of thinking, because to me it's creative thinking. So if I'm drawing or I'm reading or I'm writing or I'm composing a picture, I'm always trying to kind of assess the situation and then say, what about, or what if I move to the left? Or what I see now, say for instance, you're framing a photo. You see something, you go, it's not quite right. What can make it right? Perhaps if I move over there, I can extrapolate a different perspective. And what I noticed was it starts developing the observer in you. You can see things from other perspectives other than your static one. And I remember one of the first times I realized I was good at stepping outside myself and being the observer, like looking at situations objectively as a third party. It was not only in two people when they're having a conversation, or if I was having a debate with someone else and it'd sort of be a bit of anger, I'd sort of reflect and I'd sort of almost go out here and observe the conversation between myself and another person and be objective and go, have I actually said something wrong? Have they got a case where they're justified? And then also I remember probably the earliest time I remember being able to conceptualize, which is at the heart of being creative. It's not something that's easily taught. You either have to have a natural inclination to do it. Is when I was actually, finding my way to someone's house and I said, give me your address, I'll find the way there. Once I found the way there, I could find my way up and back easily. I had an ability to sort of, once I found my way to somebody's house through streets, I could then take a bird's eye view. I could see myself like, a red line going through a map, a maze, and I could find myself up and back. So I had an ability to kind of have a bird's eye view and see a map underneath me. I had the ability to sort of, in a situation, step outside and see myself and another person arguing, or so I always had that curiosity to look at the picture. And that helped my creativity, looking in different perspectives. And what about this? What about that phrase? What's between the lines? What's the analogy? And I was interested in concepts and things like that. So creativity is at the heart of it all. I'm not sure if you can really develop it. If you don't have an interest, if it's hard work, if it's like pushing a boulder uphill, I'm not really sure what you can do. It's one of those things that it's much easier if it's naturally in you. But creativity, I think, is at the heart of it. A creative and conceptual thinker. I don't know about any economic collapse. They're too hard to predict. What religion were you raised in, if any? Orthodox. Pretty much same Catholic Bible. I always enjoyed going to church for the family aspect and, for the basic stuff that everyone can agree on, regardless of really which religion or faith you're based in. But it was more what I respected in terms of how people treated each other. All the divinity stuff, despite being a creative person, I'm a creative person with a very rational base. For instance, my creativity, I create my space, like where I live. It's rational and structural. And then within that, I'll be able to play and be creative. So when it came to sort of religion, being raised in it, even the structure was too unrealistic. I'm creative, but not that creative. I need foundations upon which I can be creative or think further. Enjoyed your last Q&A with Peterson, especially when you told you to fuck off with that Hemingway revelation. Okay. I'd like to. I remember reading that. I'm not quite sure if Mary Hemingway was. I doubt she was making something like that up. But again, I wouldn't be surprised. But when I look at Hemingway, how aggressively he was, espousing masculinity and writing about it, and, going to Africa with Mary and hunting lions. It's kind of, man, it's over the top. I know you're a man, but sort of really you're hitting that drum loud. So I don't know. It'd be interesting to sort of, if anyone could validate whether or not that was true about Hemingway, whether he did cross-dress in his private life with Mary. But then again, it's just Mary's word against the dead Hemingway. So I'd probably side with Spetsnaz and say she's lying. Kung Fu Joe, no bragging, but I was kind of born red pill. Well, glad you were. Most of us weren't. Most of us, I think, just had like a natural rebelliousness, or I'm not convinced. Why should I? Give me a reason why. Most people want to get along, but yeah. Kudos if you were born naturally red-pilled. I don't even know what the word means anymore, really. Thank you, John. I appreciate the super chat. Ah, cool. What music software do you use? Curious. FL Studio. I've just gotten used to it. If I had my time again, I'd probably learn Ableton. But I just fell into FL years ago, and I've just I know it fairly well. I just can't be bothered learning something new, especially because music isn't my first passion. It's something on the side that I really like and enjoy doing. If it was, I'd probably know how to use both of them. How would you like to die if given the chance? In my sleep, like my father. No shit, really. Best way to go. I think doing lots of different things can help creativity, because you can compare and contrast how things are done differently in different fields and take something from one field into another field. Yeah, tinkering. Tinker. That's kind of underlies playing it safe. A lot of guys are playing it safe and going, I'm not moving until there's a guarantee of the next step to take. But don't think of it that way. Think of it, you don't have to move if you don't want to, and no one can tell you what to do. Take as many steps as you want, but have boundaries so you can play in a space, if you kind of know what I mean. So it's not about I'm too afraid to take a step. It's I'm creating my boundaries so I don't have to be afraid. And within those boundaries, I'll play as much as I want and no one can tell me what to do. And so within that playing, then you can hopefully find out what works. But doing nothing, you'll never find what might work. The son, about Hemingway, injured in the war and probably overcompensated with the He-Man business. He did. But I like the fact that he said it. Like, I'm not dissing him for it. I'm just pondering the Mary Hemingway thing about him and his private life. Aside from that, he pushed the extremes so he could reveal certain things. And sometimes when you push them, there's some really nice truths you would not have gotten to if you didn't really push them too far. Yeah, The Sun Also Rises is one I haven't read, and I've heard it's on my bucket list. I really should get around to reading it. Do you think that it is a growing process to see through denial and stop our own denial in order to become more whole and more honest to ourselves and others? Let me read that again. Do you think it is a growing process to see through denial? Yes. The denial is a resistance. Yeah, denial is fear. So yes. Human, do you enjoy talking to women now, or was it much better between the ages of 20 to 30? I enjoy talking to them more now, funnily enough. I really didn't like talking to them because I didn't know how. I felt like I had to be somebody else. I didn't know who I was supposed to be because I didn't know what they wanted. I kind of went on biological autopilot and trust the marketing and the script out there that not only women are telling you, but society and your grandfathers and grandmothers and history is telling you. But in today's world, it doesn't work. I enjoyed talking to women much less, but I enjoyed being with them physically much more, their proximity. Now it's reversed. I enjoy talking to them because I have less of a biological proximity, like, if that makes sense. So it's easier and more enjoyable because I care less, if that makes sense, in a healthy way. Like, I care about talking with them because I'm curious now, and I'm not sort of, previously it was like wanting them. So you weren't really talking with them as yourself. You were just mouthing words so they would want you and say yes, and you could be around them. So I find it more enjoyable to talk to them now, given that there's someone worth talking to. So I enjoy talking to women now to the degree to which I do. I didn't like the feeling much the younger I was, even though I wanted them more. Does that make sense? Ableton is where it's at. Yeah, I know. Human, have you had any major traumatic experience that shaped or changed you in any way? Yeah, I mentioned a few times in my videos, like 7 or 8 years ago, like when I changed my job and all that kind of stuff. I really had a point where I needed to just grab my life and just smash it on the ground, because that's what I knew I needed to do. I was tired of my life. I was tired of the BS. I wanted to be more honest. And the second time was earlier this year when my father passed away a few months ago. That really got rid of a lot of fear. in the nicest way possible. If any good gift could have come out of that, is realizing the good people in your life, what a good person is, what's just rubbish, and especially the romantic rubbish out there. Previously, like I would date. After my dad, I just did not care. If I was not interacting with honest, good people, if I wasn't being as honest with myself in what I'm doing in life, my creativity, the interactions with people, not being afraid, not hiding, that day I buried my dad was a real weight off my shoulders in terms of progress for me personally. So yeah, 7 or 8 years ago when I consciously changed my life, and a few months ago, earlier this year, when my dad helped change my life again. That wasn't in my control, but I'm grateful for that aspect. Not for his passing, but yeah. Do you believe most, if not all, relationships have an expiration date because of unrestrained female behavior, hypergamy, solipsism? Almost all, yes. Yes. And especially because the script that is allowed now. Before, there was like kind of a narrow script. There was an expectation of men and women, and there was a very narrow path with which you could both act and walk. Now it's so wide that there's no rules. So each individual can be as childish, solipsistic, and as selfish as possible. If you're trying to progress the species and be good parents and stick together and think of kids, to think of something greater than yourself like a child, you need to think of something greater than the two of you. That is the structure of your relationship, and you both need to sort of restrain both of your kind of hypergamous or solipsistic sort of individual wants. You kind of need to put them on the back burner if you want to have kids. So yeah, I think today more than ever in history, expiration date is the norm and it's expected. If it's not, it's rare. It's the equivalent of Bigfoot. Just accept it for what it is. We know that women love change. They love a new pair of shoes every week. They love holidays. Think of it this way. How many women do you know that might be like you or your friends, where you just like hanging out at home, you like a simple life, you want stability, you don't want change all the time. Now contrast that with women. How are you supposed to commit with them? They're a change machine. Previously, society limited that change in them because they've got a lot of change built into them. Now it's kind of off the leash. Guys, politics, I don't have much to say on it. So I'm not ignoring you. I'd be saying this. I don't know. I don't have an opinion. So I'm not ignoring political questions, but some of them I have nothing to say. And, about the future, what do you think about this or this massive group out there or whatever? I don't really care too much. Yeah, James, yeah. No rules for women. That's true. Still a lot is expected from men. Women can do no wrong, but the man is to be that responsible one. It's like, where is this relationship going? Oh, I didn't know I was the only one that was responsible for the direction. So you're just a child in the back seat being driven, are you? What is your opinion on Jordan Peterson's teachings? Overall, I respect the guy. And I think many did. You look at his popularity in such a short amount of time. You look at the S-curve of his trajectory in that period of like a year or two, not even, year and a half. He shot into the stratosphere for good reason, because people needed the honesty of what he was saying. I mean, I'm pretty sure most of his popularity wasn't from people who were religious, even though he was. It was because he had the courage to be honest, and more importantly, the courage to articulate it. He's the kind of guy that goes like, man, where were guys like that when I was growing up? I wish I had a teacher like that. I wish I had someone to sort of mentor me as a man, to be honest. Whether or not you wanted to have children, like I don't want to have children, but he sort of pushed a lot of masculine courage forward that a lot of people respected. Just a lot of honesty, full stop. I mean, he was popular amongst women as well. There's not much of that in the world. The fact that he was trying to be as honest as he was, people responded to that. Why do girls like psychopaths? They can sniff out their own kind. I don't know. Oh, there's probably a lot of factors. They like the danger. Again, they're fighting to... They like a lot of change, and a psychopath is unpredictable. He's dangerous. Women have an attraction. They have an attraction to hybristophilia, to sort of murderers, things like that. So they've got a dark side, and so they're attracted to parts. They're titillated they're titillated by parts of guys, excuse me, that I think are reflective of parts of them. So they don't want it, they just recognize it, if you know what I mean. So what we like in women isn't us. Maybe if she's kind, but generally what she is, what really lights our fire, is something that's not masculine at all. In terms of sociopathy and psychopathy, I think women like, that'll keep the unpredictable bad boy, will keep them on the market longer because he's fun, he's unpredictable, he's in some way in her eyes the alpha because he doesn't care. He's honest, which women love. Even if he's psychopathically honest or an idiot. So there's just a lot of things that touch on why it tickles women unconsciously. I don't think they don't consciously pick psychopaths, but they're just a lot of fun. And, as the saying goes, women want to have fun. Men like stability, rationality. You look at the STEM subjects. Women don't like that. Women like creative unpredictability, change, drama. You look at the daytime soap operas that they're such big fans of. Men aren't fans of those. Men aren't fans of the Big Brother shows where people backstab and, oh my God, did you hear what she said? Did you hear what John said? We don't give a shit. Human, if you could go back in time when you were younger, what advice would you... I think I mentioned this in my last video. I just tell myself to be more selfish. A little more selfish than I was. I was too much of a nice guy because I was raised in a nice family, and the world chewed me up for a couple of decades. I think you would have made a great father. Why did you not want children even with the right woman? Not sure. Probably a lot to do with my childhood. Objectively, I know I'd make a good father. I would. I'm not bragging or anything, but I know I would. I know the qualities that I have. I look at a lot of fathers, and they shouldn't even hold driver's licenses, let alone have the license to have children. in my opinion. But I don't know. I think with me, I wanted women. If I was going to have children, I think there's something underlying in me where I needed to trust them to have children for the long term. And the only way I could trust someone sticking around to be the mother of my kids is that if they wanted to stick around with me to be that family unit. So if they liked me for me, then I could be quite confident that they would like being a family, being the wife, being the mother. Whereas I never got a sense of long-term security to even approach considering that when I was younger. And I just got to see it doesn't exist. Every woman I was meeting, I was sure, you hear of Nawalts, and there's one or two people where I think you're lucky you found a Nawalt. I had one girl where she really wanted children. She was fantastic, but I wasn't with her long enough, I'd say. I don't know, if I was with her for 5 or 7 years, I may have changed my mind. I'm not sure. Again, this is retrospect. It's too theoretical. But I couldn't put the cart before the horse. So the horse was trusting a woman would want to be with me for the long term. And then I would entertain that later on. But I never wanted that target. I'm very I want what's rationally immediate, and then I'll build upon that. But I can't ignore what's here and say, no, this is a good holding pattern, but what I really want is 5 steps down the road. I'm not that kind of person. It doesn't make sense. I'm not living in the future. I'm living in the present. And if that carries forward, then I can consider the future based on the stability of perpetual present moments going into, the years ahead, if that makes sense. Women are inherently drama. Yeah, they're reflexively drama. I mean, there's little indications, like if you meet a woman who reads, but then when you talk to her, you actually see that she thinks about what she reads. There are a lot of women who read, but then you ask them about what they read. Number one, they read trash. Throwaway stuff like, romance novels or crappy literature. But when you talk to people who read, and when you, through their language, they're intelligent, they reflect on a lot, they've got their own concepts, that's a good indication of a person that will probably take responsibility and be self-reflective, because they're reading and absorbing lessons. A lot of people just read for entertainment. Do you think that women consciously know they are lying when they commit to work on themselves but never seem to? They don't trust that they are. I think because there's nothing forcing them to. I said in a previous video, men know at the end of the day, when you go to bed at night, that there's nothing beyond you. Whereas women know with their biology, and they're told that they're always valuable from when they're born. They're never told, you'll be great one day. As soon as a female is born, she's valued straight away, and her value just keeps increasing. Whereas a man is nothing until he sort of does something. She's validated for being a woman. You're not validated until you be a hero, or lean into being a hero, or have some sort of status or money. Again, it's not a hard and fast rule, but that's the rule, not the rule. That's the map out there. No, that's the territory out there. It's up to you to sort of draw your own map if you have the courage, but it's hard. Especially because biology and nature feels good. When you resist it consciously for your own good, it can feel bad, even though you think, but it's the right thing to do. Would you agree that both men and women have become more infantile over the past decade or two, yet men are still expected to be the traditional role while women have regressed further? Yes. Both men and women have become infantile, and women have regressed more. in a lot of ways, men are downstream from women in a social reproductive context. So the more women act like children and the less responsible they are, the less responsible we are. We follow them. So this argument, men need to man up, men need to, pull the reins back and fix society. Well, not until you take responsibility too, because we tend to sort of do things. We can't do things for the species and society if the essential part of society, that is the limiting factor in reproduction, and let's face it, the more valuable part of our species, biologically and reproductively, I'm not talking about you and yourself as an individual man. You're always, there's more you can do and more you can excel at. But generally, as a species, women are biologically more valuable than men. So make your next move knowing that, and don't complain about what society's like. Acknowledge it for what it is, how women are acting, what the lie is out there, and adapt. We can't keep complaining. We need to adapt, gentlemen. You're going to be in a coffin one day up ahead. Do you want to keep complaining, or you want to say enough? You can complain for a while, getting things off your chest, and, that release valve has its place. But staying there until the grave is just a waste. Would you red pill your kid? Should you red pill your daughter? If you talk about, in terms of red pill, be honest and not sugarcoat things, as in be the opposite of the person that continues to tell them Santa Claus exists. Yeah, don't be that guy with your daughter or your son. Look, Christopher, I don't know. Theoretically, I think I'd be a good father. I pretty much trust I would. The way I am around, siblings and, nephews and nieces, and I get along with kids. I don't want kids. And given my values and morals and things like that, I would be a strict but good father. And I think the resultant kids would be a lot better if I extrapolate from that point than a lot of people's kids walking around today. More questions, people? Normal questions. Oh, we've been going for over an hour. Getting into a relationship nowadays is like getting into a cage with a Siberian tiger. You're going to lose. Well, the point is, yes, in a lot of ways, but most people go in blindly. It's a cage. You can see the tiger. Don't get in. Sometimes something that doesn't look like a tiger becomes a tiger, but as long as you're going in with your eyes open. But most guys kind of see the tiger and they just hope she won't be. I'm 19 now and I'm deciding on going monk mode. Any advice since you were in my shoes over a decade ago? If you need to take time, fine, but I wouldn't be hard and fast. I'm going to be this guy now and I'm going to belong to this group. Don't label yourself is my suggestion. Associate, talk to people that might label themselves whatever. In the same way, I don't mind who I talk to as long as they're rational and civil. The most important thing is to know where you stand and continually kind of sharpen yourself. And you're young, man. You've got a lot to sort of, I'm not being condescending, in a great way, you've got a lot to learn. And that's a positive. There's sort of a lot of great things to learn about yourself. I didn't really learn. It didn't start to become clearer who I was and what my actual values were until I was around late 20s, 30s. So, don't lock yourself in too early. Like I hear some young guys going, I'm going to get a vasectomy and I'm going to go monk. It's like, Jesus Christ, man, don't do it now. Given you're living where you're at with all the social changes, gynocentric culture, anti-male toxic masculinity, would you consider moving overseas to, say, Southeast Asia where things are more traditional? Perhaps if I wanted a family or if things got too bad, but not for the sake of having a traditional family. I'm not attracted to Asian women, really. I'm more attracted to European brunettes. But not for traditional reasons. I wouldn't move to Asia. I really like the Asian way of life. From my experience in traveling within Asia, I've been to Bangkok and Nepal. I really liked it. I like the people and the culture, but just to kind of live there, maybe in terms of retirement. But it's a kind of big thing. Like I said, I've still got my family and friends here, so. What do you think of the same-sex single parenthood, father-son, mother-daughter? As in two dads or two mums. I have nothing against, I don't know why people get married, but if you want to get married, have at it as adults. I'm on the fence about the children, because a lot of people think, all they need is love. Well, statistically, I can't remember what it was from memory. It was like 12 to 15% of children are born gay, statistically speaking. So if the overwhelming percentage of children, through no fault of their own, just naturally they're not born homosexual, what are they going to learn from mum and mum or dad and dad? That's the only caveat I'd put where I'm on the fence. I'm not quite binary on the issue. If children weren't involved, don't care. I support, if you want to get married. I don't care. I don't think it's a smart move. You've got the right to get divorced and run through court just like the heterosexual couples can. But when it comes to children, I don't like what they could mentally, psychologically be subjected to, because in terms of, say, they're not thinking about their children being teased at school, and it's no use saying, well, society needs to change and we need to teach those children. Children are children. They're going to make fun of them, but doubly so if they're making fun of your son or your daughter because of you or because of your choices. This is where I'm on the fence. Because of your choices, your selfish choices, and I've got nothing wrong with being selfish as an adult. I foster it responsibly and civilly selfish, where you don't step on other people or impose on other people. But an innocent child, if statistically they're going to be born heterosexual, what they'll experience growing up because of you through the school system, and also what are they going to learn? So if you're a girl, what are you going to learn from observing dad and dad? Or if you're a boy, what are you going to learn from observing mum and mum? And I don't need to go into the stories where you kind of see the mothers, they'll raise their sons to sort of take ballet and music and all these things that maybe he doesn't like doing. I don't know. Anyway, I don't know enough about it other than when children come into the picture, all bets are off. I'm not going to be for or against. I have a lot of skepticism there. But as two adults wanting to get married, do whatever you want. Don't care. I fully support it. I'm not homophobic, by the way. I actually have a lot of respect, especially for gay people, the courage to come out and be who you actually are, in a lot more ways than I do for a lot of heterosexual guys that are lying and doing what they're supposed to do and marrying women and staying and saying what women want and just being a puppet. I have the utmost respect for the individual courage it takes for a gay person to be who they are. So I don't want you to think, but when it comes to children, yeah, they're not making the choice, you are. And statistically, if they're going to be heterosexual, the difficulties in school and also what they'll learn from you, I'm on the fence about that. Do you think it is conceivable that you would ever find a woman and could marry and have children with? Children, no, I don't think so at all. If I don't want children by now, I'm almost 50. I don't think I ever would. And right now, like, I mean, women's, like, I don't date young bimbos because I can't get along with them. What kind of conversation am I going to have with someone who's a lot younger? Women my age, their DNA has fallen apart. Mine has fallen apart. I probably have a better chance of having healthier DNA for procreation than a female my age, but still, I don't want that life, and I don't want to be a father. I'm not kind of drawn to it like I see a lot of guys naturally are, and I can't lie about that. And I still haven't changed my position. People have been telling me for decades, oh, you'll be sorry up ahead. Still not. I've always wanted the company of a woman. I like that. I enjoy that. But I don't want all of that other stuff, because you need to be another person, as in a father. And that's someone I don't know how to be, and I know it's going to cut off a lot of who I am. And I don't know how to be anyone else. Thoughts on antinatalism? I'm not an antinatalist. I just kind of think people should think long and hard, especially about children. And that video I made, it's kind of spotlighting just how irresponsibly people are having children today. And look, I know biology doesn't care. They just want you to spit out children. They don't care about the refined way you may or may not have children. They just care that there's another human being. Would I marry a stripper? No, never. If there was ever chance of me marrying anybody, the smallest chance, the chance of me marrying a stripper would be zero. Zero. Unless someone put a gun to my head or someone I loved. Zero. Even when I knew nothing, when I was a teenager and horny, there is not a chance I would marry a stripper. Or even probably sleep with a stripper. I was never attracted to that. I was never attracted to strip clubs, things like that. I know a lot of guys. I was just kind of different in that way. I never saw the point of strip clubs. They're just teasing me and I'm not getting anything. I just felt really manipulated and insulted at strip clubs. It's like, why are you guys giving them money? You're getting nothing. You're being insulted. You're getting nothing out of this. Have you been to India? No, but Nepal felt like India with a small I, from what I've been told. It was really, really busy. So I can only imagine what India is like. What do you think about long-term celibacy for the purpose of spiritual growth and fulfillment? I think lean in the direction that feels right. I think there's this tricky thing where people think, I don't want to be hurt, so I'll do the opposite. Sometimes nuance is required. If you didn't like going left, it doesn't mean you need to go right. Sometimes you can go at right angles or sit still. The opposite of where you were that you didn't like is not always the answer, because sometimes you can veer so far off course. Like if you didn't like here, this direction, sit still until you figure out which direction you want. Don't go in the opposite direction simply because you're distancing yourself from what gave you pain. Let what gave you pain be in the rear view mirror, or let it drift away, but don't move unless you consciously move. That's when you kind of know you're doing it of your own accord. You're not just picking a direction of safety. I'll just go in the opposite direction of women. That belies the question, are you doing it really for yourself? Or again, you're making decisions because of women? But certainly introspection happens when you're thinking, and it tends to be when you're on your own or have space to think, or you don't have as much pressure where you can think about these things. So it is very fruitful being alone for spiritual growth, but some people impose it upon themselves because it seems like a great thing to do, because it's not the other thing that gave them pain. But certainly it does, because I only say that because for some guys, they feel worse when they forcibly isolate themselves because they think that spirituality or meditation or whatever is going to help them, because they see it it's this other thing away from your old life as the traditional role. Now you can do this other thing, which seems kind of nothing to do with your old life, but it might not be you. Sorry, that was very vague. I just caution people from getting too spiritual, because I'm not, very kind of mystical tarot card universe feeling energy spiritual. I'm not that guy. I'm more philosophically stoic, empirical, spiritual, if you want to call it that word, but more philosophical than sort of nebulous spiritual. Gay parents on average are better parents than straight parents because it's Planned Parenthood and not an accidental birth. I suppose. Like I know, I've known gay couples, a couple of gay guys, and they're great guys. It's just about the child thing. I'm not sure. And look, maybe enough generations into the future it'll get easier. But the teething process now, the last couple of generations that children need to endure as the world is changing and we're all adjusting, I feel sorry for the kids. But yeah, I've seen a lot of great gay parents compared to shitty heterosexual ones, for sure. Two mums sound worse than a single mum. Well, what do they say? Like the highest divorce rates are among lesbians. So the more women you have in a relationship, the worse that relationship is. I mean, a lot of women hate being by themselves. So why subject another female to sort of that space if you can't even stand yourself? So this comment section just keeps jumping. Okay. Can you guys hear me okay? I'm not 50 yet, almost. I'm 49. John, book suggestion for you if you haven't already read it, The Virtue of Selfishness, Ayn Rand. I have. I recommended it last time. Good book. Thinking and procreating never went well together in general. That's true, JD. That's true. The less you think, the more offspring you have. Think about it, how dangerous the environment in the world is now. Thinking people will be more apprehensive and think a lot more critically about taking the next step. The less intelligent, the more impulsive you are. I suppose stats will probably show you probably have more kids because you're more impulsive and you barely use the prefrontal, I suppose. What are your thoughts on paying for sex when it's not available to you through dating? You're always paying for sex. There's a saying, what's the difference between sex you get for free and sex you have to pay for? Sex you get for free costs more. Chew on that. I don't see anything wrong with paying for sex because you generally tend to pay anyway. So if you're paying with the time it took you to save up the $300 for the sex you just want from the person, or you're giving that, you're spreading out, you're protracting the $300 with a girlfriend and drip feeding her, you probably spend more, not probably, definitely spend more on a girlfriend than you would on periodic prostitutes. Do you think all men should go monk until COVID is over? I think most thinking men would sort of, you'd probably do it by default. For instance, as of an hour and a half ago, we're on lockdown for 6 weeks here in Melbourne. So for me, it's a psychological great weight off my shoulders. Like, you can't even want women. And I'm just thinking it would be a similar psychological benefit for men today, younger men, saying, I can't go out and date. I can't hook up. So, okay. So that addiction is gone. It's kind of like if you're an alcoholic, they say we're shutting the bottle shops and you can't buy alcohol for 6 months. It's kind of like, oh, well, I can't get it, so I can't be tempted. It's frustrating, but it's less frustrating than just having it, just beyond reach. There is no reach because it's not there now. So I think these periods of solitude may actually go a long way in helping guys because they're forced to sit on their own. It probably will help women too, but I think in terms of men in the manosphere, if they're already interested in this stuff but they're still kind of tussling with their biology and they're addicted to women, these periods of forced solitude where you can't really date in person, so there's no point going on dating sites, like virtual dating's pointless. So whereas this, actual interactions with other guys and conversing, you can actually get a lot out of this. So I think there's more benefits for men during these times than women, certainly, from what I'm seeing. What are your sleeping habits? I should get more sleep and be more regular, but I suppose as well, when I'm mindful of people in different parts of the world. So I try and stay up, for instance, here to accommodate sort of the other side of the equator, different time zones. But generally I go to bed around between midnight and 1:30, and I don't really need to get up any day before 9. So given the work I do and so forth, I've got the freedom to sort of still get enough sleep if I want to. But yeah, my sleeping habits aren't as regular as they used to be. I try and get 7 or 8 hours sleep though. Do you think that the ability to go your own way is directly connected to any individual's psychological makeup than their experiences? I think your psychological makeup is a great help or a great steering wheel in your ability to even be able to go your own way. So you can have experiences that all they do is teach you painful moments and scare you. But if you're not psychologically and you're not interested in that way, philosophically or even intellectually, you got no handles by which to answer the questions. You don't care. You're not interested. Whereas every time something went wrong in my life or something bad happened, I wanted to know why. I wanted to figure out why, so it wouldn't happen again, or just simply to understand it. Or even when good things happened, I wanted them to repeat, so I'd also look at the good things and ask why too, so I could repeat it. Do you have any hobbies and interests connected to nature? Yeah, photography, hiking, jogging. In my younger years, I played a lot of sport, a lot of basketball. Always into running, gym. I like the physical release valve that sport and being physically active did, and still does. Makes you sleep better. Everything kind of works better the fitter you are. I've had periods where I've been lax in my health and, didn't work out anymore for a few months or a long period of time, especially when you're with a female that makes you happy. Then you get fappy and you put on weight and, you just relax a little bit too much. I found my sleeping was worse. Mental acuity, just a lot of stuff just didn't feel right, didn't feel like myself. I didn't like it. So everything's better when the healthier you can be, if you can be. Do I vote? Well, yeah, we have to here. It's compulsory or you get fined. How much do natural seasons affect your lifestyle and activities? Not much. In Australia, probably it's fairly hot in summer. I don't like it. I'm a winter person. I prefer cold climates than hot. I can't stand hot weather. I was born in the wrong country because you can't do anything. Go outside, you roast. Inside, you sweat. Most of the stuff I like to do is sitting down and creative and things like that. Summer affects me negatively. Are you still tempted by women? Less and less. Not much these days. If anything, what used to attract me straight away physically when I was in my 20s, now because of the experience, it's flipped on its head. When I see that same thing that used to attract me in my 20s, my reaction is disgust or no way, forget it. So I have a big resistance to the superficially attracted women. I mean, if I saw a picture of them, yeah, they look good. But in your actual life, to actually be around and as potential mates, I've got a big resistance to them because they're almost the past coming back to insult me. And my intelligence is going like, no, you don't do that again. Are men and women's standards in general falling regarding each other? I see neither sex really trying to meet each other's standards. Women don't try. Women have always been passive. The thing is, the way women are acting now, they've been very now arrogantly open and saying, we don't care. We used to pretend a fair bit to make you believe in the lie, to stay on track for the, for society and to get along. Now they don't care because they've got the government. So, what was the question again? It was, yeah, neither sex is really trying to meet each other's standards. Women never tried. Like, women's mode of finding a mate is just to place herself in your way and be passive and just kind of cross her arms and let you do all the work anyway and be aloof and like, oh, well, I'll just blink my eyes and be subjective and, what's the word? Covert and get things through a passive way. So men aren't meeting women's standards and care less because what are you trying to meet? Because, men aren't stupid. If I'm going to commit to a life and to have kids, it's a big cost. And if you wouldn't even take the person for free. Women need to be something men would want to pay for the rest of their life with their own life. Now it's kind of like a joke. What you're I'm expected to give the same thing my grandfather gave of himself to a female and family and society. For this irresponsible child in front of me. Seven hours of sleep is not a lot. I suppose I should get more, 8 to 9, but generally I average around 7. If you know the video, Quasimodo video on learned helplessness, any thoughts? I think I remember that one, but I can't remember the details. Sorry. Oh, this is a basketball fan. King James forever. I was a Jordan fan, man, and then after that, a bit of a Kobe fan. But LeBron, I respect him. I respect him. I don't dislike him at all. I'll always be a Jordan guy. On a scale of 1 to 10, relatively speaking, how much free will do you think women have? Oh, interesting. I don't think they have much. 0 being none and 10 being a lot. In general, I'd say 1, 2. Men, 3 to 5 maybe, in general. Many in the manosphere deride simps, but what if they simply can't handle MGTOW and know it? Would you say some men should never go MGTOW? That's an interesting point. It's not being able to handle it. It just doesn't fit you. So in the same way, if I really place such a high value on women in relationships, and I really placed them above me, and I wasn't as intellectually curious and I wasn't who I was, I might have placed PUA or something else as more the arena where I'd sort of learn a few more things from. So it depends on yourself, really. But that's a good point. But I don't think it's a handling MGTOW. It's just not a good fit for them in terms of what they're searching for. The medicine that MGTOW offers isn't what's making them ill or what, what they're thirsty for, we're not quenching. Would you also tell Spetsnaz to create a YouTube channel if possible? He's already got a channel. Look it up. I've actually put a link at the bottom of the chat. Right at the bottom, I've put a link to his channel. He's had a channel for a month or so, a couple of months. He's back. How do you remain stoic? Being interested enough in my own life. I'm all I've got. If I'm not interested in me, if I don't respect me, why should anyone else? Care about yourself, gentlemen. Be a little bit more selfish in a cooperative way. Always think of yourself first in the situation and then go forward and help whoever you want, but never leave yourself out of the equation. On marriage, I used to do wedding photography, never met a happy bride. Not even on her day could she get past her negative emotion. In fact, her day just made her worse without exception. I've done 2 wedding shoots myself, and there's happy moments, but they're stressed. Yeah, I haven't sort of seen too many happy brides. I've seen some, though, to be fair. You've probably done more weddings than me. Question about Australia. Any place I'd suggest to visit? Not really. I'm not really a touristy person. I'm not sure, really. Sorry. A lot of great places. I'm not a big traveller too. I like mountains. I like rainforests. I like green areas. My old video, she'll never love like that, was brilliant. Given that understanding of female nature, why would any man want to get married unless it's demanded from her? Again, like, some men want family and children. And if you know the best kind of family you're going to have is having an intact mother and father, what do you do? Again, I recognise, because I've never wanted children, it's a bit easier for me in some respects. So I can sympathise with what majority of guys who do want to have offspring might be tussling with. Ever considered a stay in the dark for a week? I thought Spetsnaz got married. Really? I think people thought because he stopped making videos. Look, I think there are a lot of guys who kind of left in that era before I sort of came on board, like Spetsnaz, and there was CS, and there was Barbar, and just a whole bunch of guys left. I think kind of there's guys that they don't want to stay MGTOW. It informs them. Whereas for myself, I like creating content. I like video. I like music. I love microphones and tech and gear. And I also love writing. I'm a storyteller by nature. I love that kind of creative exploration. So I think a lot, I journal a lot. And so I've got a lot of things by which I can use my gadgets and express my creativity and my storytelling and my ideas and thoughts. And whereas some guys are there to learn, and then they go their own way. They go in a direction and say, thanks for everything, guys. Thanks for the fish. And then they go their own way, and there's nothing wrong with that. So do you think men should use red pill knowledge to choose a better mate rather than going their own way? Not expressly to choose a better mate, but you'll be able, if you want a mate and nothing can stop you, I think red pill knowledge will help you more than not being aware of it or not seeing reality as it is. So I think it'll definitely help either way. Have you ever considered traveling the world? Yeah. I don't have the travel bug, but I'll be traveling more in the future. Is Coterie back? Not that I know of. All right, guys. I'll be wrapping this up soon. So no more super chats for now, and so I don't miss your question. So yeah, great hanging out. Hope you enjoyed this one. I'll try and do one on the weekend, probably again Saturday midday my time, but I'll confirm it in a post in my community section, and also I'll post it somewhere on the website anyway. Anyway, guys, I think that's about it. Yeah, been going for an hour and 45 minutes. So thanks a lot, guys. It was a good one. Nice, relaxing one this time. So it's 1:50 in the morning here. I'm going to go and get some sleep. I've had a long, hard week. I appreciate you guys coming in, and yeah, I'll talk to you soon. Bye, guys.